The dawn of self-knowledge. Verse number 35. Like 10,000 suns coming all at once, the modulation of discrimination arises. The veil of transience covering knowledge is Maya. Tearing this away, the primal sun alone shines. Commentary. We experience an external world full of objects of interest. Our five senses are drawn towards the magical charm of objects outside, such as the world of forms to see, the world of sounds to hear, and the many sensations of touch, taste, and smell. But no attraction keeps you glued to it forever. If you always hear the same sound, no matter how sweet it may be, it becomes monotonous. You tune it out or move on to something else. The most pleasant touch becomes irritating if it goes on too long, and the same is true of the other senses. Each sense brings momentary interest to the mind. The mind is delighted. The same senses also bring painful experiences which agitate the mind. Thus the world outside is the source of all pains and pleasures. Both pain and pleasure come and pass away alike. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna asks Arjuna, "Why do you lament about things which come and pass away? Both pain and pleasure are only momentary." The senses relate to the external world. We also have an interior world we relate to with our mind, where we make ghosts of the objects of perception and experience nightmares of our own creation. Our fantasies help us to create a fool's paradise and revel in it, and our own fears assume definite shapes which then haunt us and make us paranoid. This inner world is as transient as the outer one. Our life alternates between the external world of momentary pleasures and pains and the internal world of fantasy and nightmare. In order to experience the external and fantasize the internal, you need consciousness. It is the same consciousness, the same knowledge, that is lending its light, ideation, meaning, and value to be projected on the screen of the external and internal worlds. This is the same knowledge that is referred to in the first verse as the knowledge that enters all other knowledge and that transcends all forms of fleeting awareness. The same knowledge is described as the supernal sun that shines in the firmament of consciousness and becomes everything. The same was also shown to us as that limitless knowledge and the depth in which all untold values lie, and also as the light which was never lit and will never be extinguished. It shines and looks on. This is the one unchanging essence which is behind all the changing moods. The wise one who knows the secret of Om knows this knowledge. He remains as that. It is considered to be the all-verticalizing knowledge which shoots down the birds of sense enjoyment. It is described as the witnessing consciousness that sits under the shade of the tree of life. This is the one light that links everything and brings homogeneity to the world of multiversal identity. This light is described as having no base or crown. It is infinite. When it prevails, it makes the world as dear as a garland made of fresh flowers. When one is open to it, the world outside ceases to have any differentiation, such as here and there, or sky, atmosphere, and earth. As well, the internal world no longer has any divisions like knower, knowledge, and known. Pure knowledge transcends the three modalities of sattva, rajas, and tamas. When it comes, it is described as a flood of sound, that transforms the desert land of our meaningless life into an oceanic treasury of the highest values, where every grain of the sand of our life is turned into a pearl of priceless worth. When one is tuned to it, it is as if he is suckled on the milk of the Absolute. To him, 10,000 years are just a passing moment. This knowledge of all knowledge and light of all lights is described here as Vivekavritti. Shankara's Vivekachudamani opens with the insistence that one should have the power to discriminate between truth and untruth, the self and the non-self, and the fleeting and the eternal. As we are torn between the world outside and the world inside, we always miss this centerpiece, which is the only reality. Once in 1,000 years, one among millions stumbles upon his own reality. Then it takes not even a fraction of a second for him to wake up to his own light. Prince Siddhartha, seeing the woes of the world, saw evil in the pleasures which he was fed in his own palace. So he discarded everything and went in search of wisdom. Not knowing where it was to be found, he went from guru to guru and country to country. With all his wanderings and search and mortification of the body, he still could not find anything. At last, feeling it was completely hopeless, he decided to give up his life. He sat down under a tree and vowed to not get up until he either knew truth or left his body. Then, like a flash of 1,000,000 suns rising all at once, illumination came to him. He became the awakened one, the blessed one, the Buddha. Until that happened, the knowledge which had always been within him, which had never departed from him for even 1 second since his birth, was a closed book to him. In fact, it was this very light which prompted him to begin his search, led him from one insightful occasion to another, and finally revealed itself to him. At once all his doubts were sundered, and he was shown what reality is. Its reverberation remains today as a consolation for the world, the eternal dharma, the noble truth. A long time ago there was a young man who felt very distraught. He was drawn to a man who was preaching on the banks of the river Jordan. That man was giving baptism with water. This young man from Nazareth, called Jesus, also went there. When he was baptized, it was as if all the lights of heaven were thrown open to him. The eternal spirit within him revealed to him the highest possible truth. By gaining that light, he became the light of the world. It all happened in a fraction of a second, yet even today, in millions of hearts, he brings the message of light and love. In the scorching desert land of Arabia, a man was overwhelmed by the hot sun, so he took refuge in the coolness of a dark cave. He sat there, withdrawn in reverie. Sleep overtook him. He was roused from that state by a strange vision. He saw before him a shining face asking him to read. He was about to plead that he was an illiterate who had never known how to read, but like a stroke of magic, his eyes were opened to the secrets of the written word. He read books that had never been written, things that had never been recorded on any parchment. Thus the Holy Quran came to Muhammad. He became the prophet of truth, love, and peace. How did it come to him? He did not go to any school or university. Nobody taught him. The whole fount of wisdom was within him all the time. Suddenly it blazed forth, and he was filled with a light. From him, like a conflagration, it spread. On the battlefield of Kurukshetra, Arjuna stood dismayed, shedding tears in confusion. He did not know what he should do or what he was doing with his life. He was a man confused about his own dharma. Then he had a cosmic vision. The world outside and the world inside, all transformed into a series of values. He saw all values emanating from one supreme source, Krishna, whom he had previously misunderstood to be only his friend and lifelong associate. Like that, this knowledge is our own lifelong associate. We carry it around with us all day and sleep with it at night, not realizing that the whole cosmos is lying buried in the unknown reality within our own self. There is essentially no difference in how the light comes to any of us, masters or simple folk. When we finally do discover it, it comes all at once in a flash. To Sri Ramakrishna it came as the love of the mother, tender, caressing, chastising, illuminating, opening up new secrets, gently showing him the path, teaching him how to behave, how to relate himself to the rest of the world. It resided in his lips as the answer to every question, the solution to every problem. How did it come to him? No one knows. He was a simple illiterate person who had never had any training under any guru. But when divine grace opened up in him, he combined in himself the essence of all religions. His vision was that of a great seer, one of both the East and the West. Narayana Guru describes the dawning of knowledge in this verse as the coming of 10,000 suns all at once. The intensely bright light puts a stop to the great sport of Maya, which is beginningless but not endless. It always lives only in half-second increments. Half a second is converted into millennia, while the history of a millennia is squashed into a single moment in the form of memory. It is so strange that you can go back in your mind through the memory of generations and generations of people who you do not know and think of what happened billions of years ago. Even scientists who are supposed to be factual and down to earth speak of the Big Bang and things that happened over a period of 15 billion years with an air of objectivity. It is as if our mind can unroll itself like a ball of twine and find somewhere at the other end the very beginning of the world. Or we can stretch our mind into the future and see what will become of this universe, of a sun which is slowly burning out like a celestial candle, and a day when there is no sun, no stars. All these imaginations are possible right now in the span of half a second. Thus in half a second our imaginary world of eternity resides and is rolling on. This fantasy can be stopped in a fraction of a second. If we suddenly wake up to the light, which is what has allowed us the occasion to fantasize in the first place, those who woke up from their reverie and found this light not only came out of the blues of their own lives, but also became the torchbearers of truth for the whole world. This is possible for us to achieve if we can relieve ourselves for just a little while of both the outside world and the inside world, so that we come to know the source. Then all the external and internal will be flooded with that one light. This is all that is required. Then we can share the grace which was the awakening of the Buddha, the descending of the Holy Spirit on Christ, the revelation of Muhammad, the cosmic vision of Arjuna, the integral vision of Ramakrishna, and the unitive understanding of Narayana Guru. It is our heritage. We are that. We can share it in our daily lives. Om. And the free translation of verse 35 is as follows. The function of wisdom discernment comes, like the dawning of 10,000 suns. This is the primeval sun, which cleaves asunder the veil of Maya, that precipitates the transient forms of ignorance.